People's Channel. We want to know what you think, and we've been out and about today in the rebel seat of Lee in Greater Manchester in 2019. That constituency voted in a Tory MP for the first time. But do the locals there think that the government can stop the boats?
No, not really.
Why not?
Just because they've promised other things and they've never really followed up.
I don't think so.
Why not?
They've tried to send people back to Africa, and they've been stopped by law, haven't they? So people will keep coming. They won't stop. They can't stop the boats.
No.
Tell me why not?
Why not? How many chances have they had? How many chances? You know.
Well, they're obviously trying to push this Rwanda bill through at the minute. Do you think they'll be able to accomplish that?
No, they never will.
I don't trust any government to tackle the immigration at the moment.
Why not?
I think it's too difficult to tackle. Not one country in Europe's managed to tackle it.
And there we have it. The good people of Lee in Greater Manchester, they don't trust anybody on this anymore. And to talk about that now, I'm joined by Labour MP for East Ham, Sir Stephen Timms. Sir Stephen, thank you very much for joining us in the studio. So the bill got through, but the Labour Party have made it abundantly clear they will get rid of it at the first opportunity. What's your overall view of the spectacle we've seen over the Rwanda bill in Parliament these last few days?
Well, it has been a spectacle, that's certainly true. I don't think it's going to work, even if it gets through Parliament, and there's a lot of legal somersaults that are going to have to be gone through in order to get it through. But if it did work, the threat to remove fewer than 1% of the people coming to the UK to Rwanda, I just don't think that's going to deter. 99% are not going to be sent to Rwanda. Those people who want to come here are going to carry on trying to come. I think this is a fundamentally misconceived approach, which is just not going to deliver the results that the government wants to see.
So we know you don't like Rwanda. We know that Starmer would scrap it. What's your plan? Does the Labour Party want to cut immigration down or not? A lot of people out there believe, because of Keir Starmer's association before with the People's Vote and his relationship with Brussels, quite close, he effectively likes open borders, or at least high immigration. Do you guys plan to cut it or not?
No, we certainly are not talking, and have never talked about open borders. We definitely do want to stop the boats coming. You've made the point, people dying in the Channel this week. That needs to be stopped. But the way to do it, we think, is quite different to the way the government is doing. And Yvette Cooper yesterday set out a plan. We've got to work with European countries. We've got to work with France. We need to negotiate access to the SIS2 database that we lost at Brexit.
But
That's
that will
going to
come
require
at,
a fresh negotiation.
All of that will come at a price.
Well, it needs to be done. We need the intelligence from the European countries about the people traffickers. There's been virtually no successful prosecutions of people traffickers in the last few years.
But that's not for lack of trying.
Well,
so how would things be different?
They fail. We need the intelligence from that database. We need a new returns unit set up that will return people who are not entitled to be here to where they came from.
But that would also surely come at a price. There's been a lot of talk about a reciprocal deal with the EU.
We used to remove a lot more people. The number of people removed from the UK has plummeted. Across the board, the policy of this government has been a failure. We need to put that right, and Yvette Cooper's plan, I think, is the way to do it. Fundamentally different, working with other countries, setting up units to do the work that's needed, and getting access to the intelligence data so that we can stop the traffickers.
One figure that was mooted, Stephen, was the 100,000, because if you take a percentile of the illegals coming into European Union member states across the board, the percentile that we would have to take for any returns deal with member states of the EU would be 100,000. 100,000 that have breached the borders of Europe. How on earth, if that's the route, can we get net migration down? Well, we're taking an extra 100k from the EU.
We're not talking about a returns deal. We're talking about working with the authorities in the other European countries, France in particular, to stop the boats coming from Calais to the UK. We're talking about getting access to the data.
Do you think France wants to stop the boats leaving France? Why would the French want to stop people leaving France? They'd be presumably quite happy for them to come to Britain.
There is cooperation already, thankfully, with France we need to build on that. It's not true that they're doing nothing. They're just not doing enough. And the cooperation between the two countries is nothing like sufficient. We've got to do much, much better, and I'm confident that we can.
£500 million a year we give to the French at the moment. We don't seem to get an awful lot of fruit in return for that.
We've given £400 million to Rwanda and got absolutely nothing so far.
On that we can agree. I mean, they're trying to give the money back.
Absolutely. And they're talking about £170,000 on top of that, £170,000 for every person who gets sent to Rwanda. We don't know what's going to happen. Apparently they're going to have people sent from Rwanda to the UK. I mean, this deal is, I think, it's hopeless. And yet the government has made this as the one thing that's going to solve. It's not going to solve the problem at all.
And we all agree that it's small beers compared to legal migration. What's the Labour Party's plan for legal migration?
Well, we need to tighten up. We need to enforce the rules that are in place. As I've said already, there has been a collapse in the number of people who've been refused permission to be here and then removed.
Yeah.
Far more were removed when Labour was in government than have been removed in the last few years. Asylum decisions take years. There's 100,000 people awaiting an asylum decision at the moment. The system's got to work properly, and at the moment it's just collapsed.
So, Stephen, are you confident that you're ready for power? The Labour Party seem poised for power. It sometimes seems that you don't really have to do anything apart from just watch the Tories implode. How will the country be better or different under a Labour Party?
Well, I think there's a very widespread view that this government has failed. The country's really in a pretty dreadful state. And the claim that the Conservative Party, after 14 years of being in power, is going to fix it is pretty hollow. So Keir Starmer has set out a plan. I think it's a compelling plan. It's 5 missions for a long-term renewal of Britain. That, I think, is what we need. We're not going to get a short-term fix. A new Labour government is not going to fix things overnight by any means. It's going to be a long haul, and the priorities that Keir has set out, above all, increasing the rate of productivity growth in the UK, which has really plummeted in the last few years. We've got to get the economy growing again. We've got to get Britain building. We've got to fix the NHS, the other missions that Keir has set out, with kind of cross-departmental mission boards to deliver on each of those 5 missions. I think that's the right approach. I think it'll work.
It sounds great, but the biscuit tin is empty. There's no money left.
Well, indeed, I'm afraid we've got a terrible economic record under 14 years of Conservative government. And putting that right is going to be the new government's number one priority. If a Labour government is elected, getting the economy firing on all cylinders again is going to be the number one priority. And you're right, that is the key to turning things around.
Superb. So Stephen Timms, Labour for East Ham. Thanks for joining us in the studio.
Thank you, Martin.
Absolutely delightful. Thank you.